Yo, 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 yo! What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Great.
Great?
Yeah.
You know why you're going to be great?
Why?
I know why you're going to be great.
Why?
In about 30 seconds, this is what you're going to be smoking out of.
It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator.
Yep. I've graduated. I've graduated to a percolator.
Mrs. Weedman is trying an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
Well, let me start about this. I had loved smoking out of bongs. I love smoking out of this percolator I bought about a year and a half ago. Mrs. Weedman had problems smoking out of a bong and out of this percolator. She didn't know how to control the smoke. So this weekend we practiced, and Mrs. Weedman figured out
I did it.
the percolator.
I didn't realize you could take more than one breath. So, I was trying to figure out how you hold the percolator, you hold the lighter, you light the shit, you take the bowl out, you take an inhale all the time, all this while inhaling. I don't. And then I watched Mr. Weedman do it, and he took 2 breaths. I was, what? It was a game changer.
Yeah.
And now I could do it.
You did it.
I did
we
it.
smoked it all weekend.
Yeah, it's great.
So we smoked it yesterday during Mother's Day. So happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there, aunts,
Yep.
cousins, all the women of the world that take care of kids or have kids in their lives. You're all moms out there, aunts, cousins, friends, whatever.
Fur kids,
Whatever.
human kids,
Yes,
whatever.
We love you all. Happy Mother's Day out there to all the moms in the world, around the world. Hopefully you had a great, great Mother's Day. We had a nice day.
We did.
It was great. We went to a bar and we drank Bloody Marys.
Yeah. Oh, we had one.
I had
But
2.
I actually finished my Bloody
Yeah.
Mary.
But you also had a beer.
I had a beer.
And then we had champagne because someone bought us a glass of champagne.
Oh, yeah, we had 3 drinks.
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
And plus, we got everybody high at the bar.
Yeah.
we
had
handed out a bunch of
edibles.
edibles. And we were smoking, too. So it was great. Great experience. We loved the bar. We loved the bar that we went to yesterday, so it was great.
Most of our family was traveling, and kids are out of state, so it was just the 2 of us for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Then we
We
came
did
back to the
something
house
different.
and we smoked and chilled and drank
And
some
hung
more
out.
beers and started a fire, and it was very nice. Very
It was
nice
nice.
Mother's Day weekend.
It was.
Yes. We cooked and just chilled out. It was great. Smoked that percolator.
Are we ready?
Smoked that percolator.
What am I smoking?
We are smoking the Weedman 420 Chronicles experimental strain. I'm sorry. I know I have some people asking me when am I getting some new stuff to smoke. Here's the deal. I don't go to the dispensary that much to buy weed anymore because I don't have to. I do have some friends right now that have some strains they just got done growing, and they're going to give me a couple of nugs, so I will talk about that on the next show. And if anybody wants to throw me a nug that you home grow, I will be happy to talk about it. Get me the info on it. I'll be happy to give the name who grew it. Talk about your strain, talk about how good it feels and how nice it makes it. So I know some people have done it to us in the past. We'll take it all. I don't need a lot, just enough to smoke on the show. We'll be happy to give you some shout outs.
We do go to dispensaries when we travel, though.
Yes.
If we leave Illinois.
Right, 100%. But I
something
mean, it's
new.
been a while since we've been to an out-of-state dispensary to bring stuff home. And I apologize that I don't go to the dispensary that much to rate new strains, but I will do my best to start doing it better.
There you go.
All right? Everybody out there in the world that's been asking me to rate more strains. So how was that percolator?
I think I took a really big hit. I'm all right.
That's good.
We'll see.
Clean, fresh water.
Yeah.
Clean the water out every day.
Nice.
So we're good to go. Tell them about Ozark.
Huh.
Ugh.
Well, I hate to, I don't want to,
Don't give them any spoilers, but
Yeah,
just
no
tell them
spoilers.
how you've been enjoying watching it and
oh
how
my gosh.
crazy it's been.
No, it's just that wife. She's just crazy. She's so intense, and she'll just literally do anything. She will do anything to just satisfy her own needs and wants and pocket. She's crazy.
I don't even know it's about the money.
She's so hostile.
I don't think it's about the money. I think
No,
it's
it's
about the power
power.
and the control.
She's all about the power and
yes,
control.
and the control.
What is her name? Wendy.
Wendy.
She's nasty.
Ruth is still my fave.
I love Ruth.
Ruth is best.
Yeah.
Best.
But if you don't watch it,
Yes.
you should.
You should. It's a great
Pretty
show.
good.
Well, anything else? What else happened? Yuki's doing great.
Yuki's
training.
growing.
She's 14
Yeah.
weeks tomorrow. Crazy how big she's gotten. Her head is now over the table. Crazy how big and fast she's got. We had a lot of fun with her though over the weekend. Got a bunch of new toys for her, and we're able to go outside and play 'cause the weather finally got nice.
Yay.
80 degrees. Wow. Full spring. That's, of course, we didn't even see spring.
No, we're going to go from 50 to 80.
Yeah, and we did.
80 and humid. Chicago.
So hopefully everybody out there is going to smoke some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. We appreciate you. Mrs. Weedman, you ready to get going?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What is THC and why should you care about it in your cannabis products? So cannabis is a highly versatile herb. As the world continues to embrace it, millions of people are being introduced to the various cannabinoids to make up the plant. Often the tag THC can be found written on the packages of cannabis products, but very few understand what this THC is all about. First of all, THC stands for total active cannabinoids. It refers to the cannabis profile of a strain. When purchasing a cannabis product or a seed, consumers are able to have more insight into the total cannabinoid content of the strain. With THC, users can customize their cannabis sessions. The total active cannabinoids of the strain take the focus away from THC alone and directs more attention to other minor cannabinoids in the plant. THC information informs users about how potent or effective a strain may be when consumed. Most of the time, the THC is indicated by a cumulative figure. While a few manufacturers choose to disclose the individual properties of the cannabinoids present in the strain, this way, users can effectively decide which product they need at that very moment based on its potential effects. THC represents the total amount of potency level of various cannabinoids found within a specific cannabis plant. Cannabis plants contain over 50 different cannabinoids, although not all are detectable. Current testing methods can only identify a set of cannabinoids available in substantial quantities. So in reality, the THC figure is usually less than the exact amount of cannabinoids in the strain. Note that the non-detectable cannabinoids in the strains are inactive or not sufficient enough to induce a notable impact. For cannabinoids to be included in the THC means they will have some form of influence on the effects that manifest in the user. Cannatech operators are yet to figure out a direct mechanism to identify the mechanism of the individual cannabinoid in the strain. There's a little section about the entourage effect and THC relationship. We all know the entourage effect is not 100% guaranteed. There's still studies. I just read an article and listened to a podcast that talked about the entourage effect and is it real or not real. I think there's a synergy. I've talked about it before. I think there's midichlorians in our bodies and midichlorians that come from the cannabis plant because I say there's angels in those leaves and in that plant. I believe that there is a synergy between us and the cannabinoids and the terpenes and the flavonoids and all that within the cannabis plant. I think it was made for us. The theory reveals that all compounds, including terpenes and phytocannabinoids available within the cannabis herb, work together to induce the best effects. The total active cannabinoids figure is very important to the entourage effect. Scientists believe that the THC reveals how the entourage effects operates, explains why THC and CBD induce better physiology effects when they consume together or in addition with other minor cannabinoids. It's all one. It's all synergistic, ladies and gentlemen, stoners, burners, and potheads. The knowledge of THC is more beneficial to medical cannabis users. It gives them an indication of what to expect from the entourage effect. On the other hand, recreational users use THC to improve their smoking or dabbing experience. A few novices in the industry often confuse the meaning of THC as being total aerobic count. This is different from the active cannabinoids and has different meaning. A total aerobic count is a measurement of the total microbial counts in the cannabis samples. Cannabinoids in cannabis. Over 60 cannabinoids can be found in weed plants. Some THC labels could list up to 100 cannabinoids in one product. However, the majority of these compounds are relatively unknown. They have been identified, but their mechanisms are not understood. Some of the most common cannabinoids found in large and trace quantities in cannabis crops are as follows. CBD. CBD is one of the top 2 bioavailable cannabinoids in cannabis crops. It is renowned for its relaxing, non-psychoactive, and medicinal benefits. CBD induces effects that help to counteract the high produced by the psychoactive cannabinoids. It does this by inhibiting the release of FAAH, an enzyme that breaks down anandamide. This action encourages the availability of anandamide, also known as bliss compound. Studies have shown that CBD has anti-inflammatory properties and other therapeutic potential. Delta-9 THC, the big dog. THC is literally the most famous cannabinoid in the weed ecosystem. The cannabinoid is a dominant compound that induces psychoactive effects on the user. THC reacts with CB1 receptors in the endocannabinoid system to produce the high. It emulates and anandamide to induce the release of FAAH. Unlike other cannabinoids, THC is more potent and lasts much longer in the system. CBDV is a minor cannabinoid that is often found in wild and hybrid varieties of cannabis. Cannabis crops grown in Central Asia have traces amounts of this cannabinoid. Research is going to understand the compound's reaction with the ECS, but cannabis researchers have pointed out that is similar chemical structured to CBD. CBC is a minor cannabinoid found in trace amounts in cannabis plants. Information about this cannabinoid is limited. Very little is known about the interaction between the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Some studies suggest that CBC adds holistic efficiency to the entourage effect. And like we said, the entourage effect, there's still a lot of studies, but I believe in it. Terpenes and flavonoids. Aside from cannabinoids, cannabis contains other essential compounds like fatty acids, terpenes, flavonoids. Most of these other compounds are poorly understood in the ecosystem, yet they play a vital role in the entourage effect. Terpenes are compounds that give cannabis strains a unique flavor. Terpenes are found in plants, fruits, and flowers of all crops, not just cannabis crops. Examples of terpenes are pinene, limonene, eucalyptol, and linalool. Terpenes also boost the effects of cannabinoids and endocannabinoid system. We have a beautiful Mother's Day bouquet that Paulie, O-Dog, and Weedman 420 got Mrs. Weedman for Mother's Day. They arrived on Friday. Beautiful bouquet. The terpenes that are coming out of those flowers are absolutely positively the best smelling when you are baked. And there's that one lilac, the two lilacs in there that have this beautiful aromatic smell. When you get up in that nose and hits you, it wakens you up.
It's nice.
Yeah, very nice. So terpenes. On the other hand, flavonoids give the plant their pigment. They induce antioxidant effects in consumers. Their role in the entourage effects is vague, and their interaction as well as the breakdown process are yet to be established. The bottom line, knowing the TAC value of your cannabis products is very important. It's just one more reason why cannabis regulations enforce manufacturers to include this information when labeling the products. It's even better when the total cannabinoids are listed. With this information, you can experiment with different product ratios to decipher the concentration that gives you the best cannabis experience. We've talked about the experience before. To me, it's all about the experience when you're smoking. Medical officers can use this acute measurement to determine the best therapeutic concentration for cannabis patients. With time, more studies will begin to look into the specific interactions of minor cannabinoids and other cannabis compounds in the consumer system. Mrs. Weedman, I love it. Science.
That's very technical.
Here's something crazy. We've been doing a lot about talking about work and weed lately. Parenting, partnering, weed and work. How do you get away with smoking weed at work? All the good stuff, all the fun stuff. Now you're going to teach them
more about how to smoke weed at work.
There you go.
Not such a bad idea for certain people, right? Well, getting high on the clock is still weirdly taboo. But when you know what you're doing and what strains to smoke, it's actually pretty chill. Let's be honest. Work is boring, repetitive, and worst of all, mandatory, like the longest errand you could ever run. And you know what always improves an errand? Smoking a little weed beforehand. Don't act like you've never thought about it. I can't smoke weed with abandon at my job, can I? Well, as long as you don't work in childcare at a job that drug tests or requires you to drive, well, then yes, you probably can. Plenty of people do it in their everyday lives because weed helps them focus, makes them a friendlier or more creative employee, helps them manage symptoms like pain or nausea or anxiety. The list goes on and on. So how do all of these people walk the tightrope line between getting high and getting paid biweekly? It all starts with making smart choices about what strain you smoke before clocking in. Lorena Cupcake is a former budtender who currently works in weed marketing and writes a Weed Maps column named Ask a Budtender. Even in the cannabis industry, I'm not showing up to an important meeting blasted out of my brain with red eyes with a bag of Doritos, she told Vice. But that's not necessarily the experience everybody is going to have with cannabis. I've long been one of the people who knows that I can function and I can do what I need to do while being high. Most people know about THC and CBD, but if you want to pick an appropriate strain, you're going to have to do a little research on terpenes, the flavor compound that gives different kinds of cannabis the unique scent and bouquet in weed terminology. According to Cupcake, terpenes influence and modulate the experience that we have from cannabinoids like THC and CBD quite a bit, which means paying close attention to terpenes is a more reliable way to gauge how a strain might impact you than just looking at THC or CBD content alone. Cupcake recommended reaching for strains heavy in 2 specific terpenes, pinene, including alpha-pinene, and limonene. Pinene is the sprucey, evergreen-scented terpene that you're going to find in Northern Lights, Jack Herer, or anything that smells like a dank forest. Pinene actually helps with attention, alertness, and focus, and I usually compare limonene to lemonade powder, like when you open up a container of Country Time lemonade.
Oh, remember that?
Yeah. And
holy
that
shit,
citric
that's a
acid
great example.
Smell hits you in the face.
Oh,
right?
great example.
I recommend limonene heavy strains to people as a mood elevator if they're dealing with depression or fatigue.
What's the song? Country Time Lemonade, that good old fashioned lemonade.
Whoa.
Remember that?
No.
You don't remember that song?
I feel like I should.
Oh my goodness.
I remember Country Time.
Country Time Lemonade.
I don't think it went like that.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
All right,
No.
Finish your article. I'll look it up. Finish your article. I'll look it up. Go ahead.
I remember commercials. I don't remember
Finish
that
your
song.
article.
Mr. Weedman.
all right.
I think you're making
You
shit up.
always put me to the test, and I always prove myself
We'll
right.
see. We'll see. All right. So
What do I get if I win? Here's the question. What do I get?
you could take a rip from my percolator.
That's my percolator.
You can have some more. Okay. Cupcake said that strains like Tangine, Durban Poison, Super Lemon Haze, and Clementine can all be great for productivity. But I do find Mr. Weedman's got it. He's so happy. Do it. Just get it over
Nope.
with. Get it over with.
No, go ahead. Finish.
It's interrupting the
Finish
story.
the article.
I got to start over.
Nope.
So Tangine, Durban Poison, Super Lemon Haze, Clementine can all be great for productivity. But I do find that the caveat to working with lemony sativa strains is that they can cause anxiety. And they might increase it so much that you're in an anxious spiral up in your head, overthinking things, and that's not where you want to be when you're at work. But per Cupcake, myrcene heavy strains are the ones to really steer clear of when looking for the right pre-work toke. It's going to come up in the lab results for most strains, but myrcene heavy strains tend to have a fruity, spicy, mango type vibe. Those are the ones that are going to cause couch lock and decrease focus on the task at hand. Another potential pitfall, you might have the cannabis and it's got the really great terpene profile for productivity and you're productive with it. However, if you're not keeping an airtight container or it's in the view of direct sunlight, that means it's exposed to things that degrade cannabinoids and terpenes. Those terpenes are very volatile, and as they evaporate, you're no longer getting those effects. You're no longer getting those benefits, and at the same time, THC is breaking down into CBN, which is another cannabinoid that some experts say make you sleepy. If it's 8 months old, it's probably not going to be the best weed for work, says Cupcake. Finally, less is more when it comes to mixing work and weed, especially if you're not a frequent smoker or if you don't know how you react under pressure and under the influence. But if you do get high by mistake, remember, you can always just say you threw up and you need to take the rest of the day off. So good luck. Yeah.
Great article.
Yeah, that's fun.
This commercial from 1980.
80. So,
And I remembered
yeah,
it.
I was
Ready?
alive.
Just doesn't want a bath.
Well, I know what I want to taste of good old-fashioned lemonade.
Country time.
With natural lemon flavor.
Tastes like good old-fashioned lemonade.
Not too tart, not too sweet.
Country Time lemonade flavored drink, unsweetened too.
Country time, tastes like that good old-fashioned lemonade.
Whoa.
Yes!
Whoa.
Mr. Weedman, the champion of the world.
Why do you remember shit like that?
Gosh, I'm fucked because I smoke weed and I have a great memory.
I remember Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's
and he,
fine.
like, pounced through the wall.
Everybody remembers the Kool-Aid guy. But I remembered the Country Time because it was
good.
on every fucking commercial
on
as a kid.
all the time.
In the summertime?
All summer.
Yeah,
All
all
summer.
summer long. 1980.
Wow. That was pretty good recall.
High five.
I'm impressed.
High five.
Have a hit of my percolator.
There you go. It's time for the percolator. It's time for the Mr. Weedman.
That was pretty good,
won.
Mr. Weedman. I'm going to give you credit on that one.
Little rippy rip.
Oh boy, this is going to get interesting, right?
I don't know. We'll find out. I love the percolator though.
Yeah.
I wish I remember where I bought it from. I
Yeah.
could look it up.
I don't know.
Loving care for bud tenders. I have said for a long time now, bud tenders will save the world. No, I haven't said that, but I said bud tenders are the most important people in the world. But this guy wrote a book, and his name is Javier Armas, and he didn't set out to write this book, and he self-published it. I haven't read it yet, but I really like this article, and I really like what he wrote about, what he talks about. So he published a multidisciplinary cannabis textbook during a pandemic, but stranger things have happened. An Oakland native with many past lives as a bud tender, high school teacher, paralegal, and sales rep, Armas now runs his own equity cannabis business, Javier's Organics, and serves on the board of the Bay Area Latino Cannabis Alliance. He's now added Arthur to his list and plans to refocus his career on mentorship and grassroots community organizing. Good for him. His book, Bud Tender Education Volume 1, is available in paperback and ebook and all that stuff, but it is sold in select dispensaries in the Harborside in Oakland, California Street Cannabis Company in San Francisco. It comprises of 22 essays and just over 100 pages that Armas initially posted to his LinkedIn feed before and during the pandemic quarantine. The essays address topics he felt were lacking in the cannabis literature of the last decade, including indigenous agricultural practices, cannabis potential in Lebanon, and the decades of activism that communities in the Bay Area have contributed to the plant's decriminalization. While it's not necessarily the first book of its kind, Armas says that the intersections of the global health crisis, a racial justice movement, and big leaps in cannabis legislation prompted him to work his writing into a book that not only addresses the big changes in the industry in the past year, but also contextualized centuries of cannabis history for the vastly educated frontline workers, vastly under-eradicated. Sorry about that, everybody. Not undereducated. I fucking deeply apologize about that. Under-eradicated frontline workers, the bud tenders. Armas calls bud tenders the key industrial link between brands and patients, as they are most often directly responsible for what a recreational consumer or patient buys in the store. But while most dispensaries look like Apple stores nowadays, bud tenders occupy a unique space that goes beyond that of a retail clerk or a genius. They are often asked to perform like a doctor, prescribing treatment, or a sommelier, pairing strains with people's taste. Yes, yes, yes. It's somewhat trying to be a textbook without really being a textbook, says Armas. Bud tenders are so neglected, exploited, overworked, nobody cares about them. Mr. Weedman cares. Mrs. Weedman cares. We talk about you guys a lot and gals a lot. My pedagogical trainings is looking at actions and learning, and as a bud tender, I think it's very relevant because you learn from this practice with a theoretical underpinning of science, history, politics, law, and then a little sliver of physiology. And then 14-year-old Armas coming of age in North Oakland, cannabis was much an identity as a means of financial opportunity. He would eventually graduate from both selling dime bags and high school, earning a history degree from University of California, Santa Cruz. After graduating in 2006, he moved back to the Bay Area and started bud tending full-time in the age of California Senate Bill 420, which had built on the existing proposition of 1215 of 1996 to establish dispensaries where registered patients could procure medical cannabis. There were no standard operating procedures, nor was there software to track cannabis through the supply chain, seed to sale. Most of his coworkers had learned about cannabis from selling it illicitly, basically on a traditional market, rather than reading books by informal cannabis scholars like Ed Rosendahl or Jorge Cervantes. Feeling underappreciated and unfulfilled, he left cannabis to teach high school history for the Oakland Unified School District for 5 years, and later worked as a civil rights paralegal for another 5. By the time California voters had passed Proposition 64 to legalize recreational cannabis, and he rejoined the industry as Jetty extract sales rep, but the industry problems of greedy investors, pushy sales reps, and clueless dispensary workers hadn't gone away. It was clear to Armas that action needed to be taken in order to move the industry forward. Mobilizing on the local level can be effective, encouraging the cannabis community to increase its political organizing work and use these openings to build more sensible cannabis policies. Amos writes in his opening pages of the book is partially to inspire local cannabis democratic movement for changes across the globe by peeking into the learning from the California cannabis industry with an Oakland equity perspective. Through its address to budtenders, the book offers a learning opportunity for anyone who has set foot inside a dispensary and wondered how we got to the point of selling medicated gummy bears to odorless vape pens. It's written conversationally with generous images to prevent stuffiness in a range of quoted sources from Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky to Ron Liggett, Oakland's first Native American equity applicant. The essays are not chronological order, so readers can flip through the pages to find one that piques their interest, whether it be the parallels between cannabis and agricultural workers, a breakdown of how Bay Area equity licenses work, or review of nascent research on cannabis and coronavirus. The next step for him is bringing the book directly to the people who need it most. He's working on securing a brick-and-mortar space for the Equity Cannabis Community Center, and he's hoping to turn dispensary break rooms into classrooms by educating staff on site through his book. His brand, Javier's Organics, hasn't started producing cannabis products yet, but he hopes to be that information for the coming generations who have never worked in the wild, wild west of cannabis. The Oakland equity community, I think, is demoralized, so I'm trying to build a community of healthy Oakland equity businesses. If I can pay my rent, eat food, write my books, I'm happy. I could spend the rest of my time helping Oakland equity businesses get off the ground, sell their edibles, their carts, and their dreams. I like that. I mean, I'm giving him a huge plug because I really enjoyed reading that article, and I like what he's doing. So good luck. I will pick up your book one day, or maybe just send it to me. So one or the other. Another article about employees and workers.
Yep.
I'm doing this for a reason.
Why?
Because I want people to know it's okay to smoke weed at work.
Yeah.
So all these articles are just, I felt compelled to do it because I get to smoke weed while I work.
Depending on the profession.
Of course. So.
And that's at anyone's discretion.
But even that, sometimes it doesn't have to be at work. At home when you're off work kind of thing too. Some people don't like smoking weed while they're working. I get it. They don't want it. But they should be allowed to go home and do whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
So that's why I've been focusing on workers. And
you know what I was thinking today is that it's very hard to understand cannabis, and I suppose very easy to be biased against cannabis if you don't really consume it. Because the more you consume it, the more you understand how beneficial it is. And you understand how...
You figure shit out when you're on cannabis.
Yeah, you figure out how it makes your body and your mind feel. And without that experience, it's all kind of nostalgic talk. Like, oh, you're a stoner. Oh, you know, all the cliches, all the stigmas.
Right.
But also just a lot of misunderstanding.
Yep.
Everybody just needs to do it for, like, it should be an assignment. Everybody, when you're like high. 25, you got to be high for a year. And then you can decide if you don't like it. All right, 6 months. You should know in 6 months what it's all about. But...
And there's some people I know that have tried it and truly don't like it.
Right.
I get it. It's not for them.
I'm not saying it's for everybody.
It's not. I think it should be for like 99.9%.
Yeah.
You might have like
I think that you just don't understand like,
it or don't like it.
Yeah. Without really using it, not just a few times, like really understanding how you feel on it. It's very hard to... Like, I could see if you were a doctor being annoyed when people come in and worried and concerned if they come in like thinking they had a cannabis overdose.
Right.
Because you don't understand the feeling, like you scientifically understand what they're going through, but you have not felt it. Most likely, if you're a PhD, you're a medical doctor, you're not smoking weed.
A lot of doctors, I think, I don't know every doctor, but some of the
might
doctors
smoke in
that
the evenings, right? On their days
or
off.
they smoked in college.
Right. But not all. And so if you think of it from a clinical perspective, you know, yeah, it messes you up a little bit, I suppose, for a moment if you've had way too much of it.
Yeah,
but it's not like, but I did, well, anyway, we'll get into this article because I'm just babbling right now. I'm really high.
It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator.
Not.
It's time for the percolator.
All right. So that last one was about, hey, if you work at a job where you think you can get high, well, get high and see how you do. This one is about nearly 1/3 of employees at major companies used cannabis while working. Yep, 1/3 of
big.
employees, in the financial, tech, or corporate services sector have used cannabis while working or during a work day, according to a new survey. The survey by the professional social media outlet Blind found nearly 29% of workers at some of the largest companies in the country have used cannabis at work or while working from home in the last 3 months, according to a News Observer report. The 2,500 workers surveyed worked at 35 companies in the financial, tech, or corporate services sector. The survey asked about both medical and non-medical cannabis use. I have spent most of my pandemic high, said one response from a software engineer at Wayfair. I haven't noticed it affecting my performance that much. Most of my work on my plate is pretty simple anyway. A majority of workers at Robinhood and Splunk said they have consumed cannabis on the job in recent months. The financial sector workers consume less cannabis, with 33% of employees at companies like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase saying they have used cannabis on the job in the last 3 months.
Hell yeah.
That's a little, I don't know if I want my banker high while they're moving money
But
around.
sometimes not. You know what?
You might be really focused.
I'm better with numbers when I'm high than when I'm not high.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't get it when I'm fucking not high. Numbers.
Get high.
I do.
Less than 20% of workers at other firms like Apple, Coinbase, and ServiceNow reported using cannabis while working. The News Observer points out that a 2021 Gallup poll found over half of Americans have consumed cannabis in their lifetime, and 18 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized adult-use cannabis, implying these on-the-job cannabis consumption findings are not outside the norm in 2022. I use it recreationally to be more focused. I find technical topics much more enjoyable and insightful with that focus, a verified MathWorks employee said. It helps me think more abstractly. So again, to each his own. Really.
Yeah.
And it depends on what your job is. But
100%.
Yep.
At least be able to smoke it when you get home.
Right.
Like I think they wind up screwing that law in Jersey with the cops, the off-duty cops. When they were off, they could smoke at home, but I think they were fixing that and saying they couldn't. But
Oh, they changed.
I think they changed it. So stupid. I'd rather see a cop smoke weed off-duty than drink.
Yeah.
Cops get angry when they drink.
Well, not all, but
A lot.
they see a lot of shit.
Yeah. They need to smoke that weed. Mm-hmm. Pro-legalization GOP congressman calls Biden, man, I'm going to butcher this word. I practiced it too. Recalcitrant boomer, like a baby boomer. Basically, he just said he's a dumbass on cannabis policy, not anything else, just on cannabis policy. So, a GOP congressman is blasting President Joe Biden over the lack of cannabis reform that's come out of his administration, calling him a recalcitrant boomer who is missing an opportunity to advance a popular policy change that he campaigned on, which he did, and I've talked about it. And Matt Getz, Republican of Florida, talked about the president's record as well as a recent study on the cannabis as a potential substitute for prescription drugs on an episode of the Firebrand podcast that was released last Friday. With respect to the study, which determined that adult use legalization in states is associated with decreased use of several prescription drugs, the congressman said it was bad news for Big Pharma, but it also underscores the need for reform at the level that the Biden administration has yet to facilitate, he argued. Man, keep on arguing. I don't know. So the congressman also touted the fact that he was one of the 3 Republican members of the House who voted for the favor of the Democratic-led bill, the MORE Act. And in contrast, Biden maintains an opposition to adult-use cannabis legalization, though he continued to allow states to enact their own policies, and he did recently grant clemency to only a few federal prisoners who were convicted over cannabis. He could have done the whole 40,000, but he didn't. Joe Biden, where you at? The House has passed legalization. That's one of your presidential demands, and it's headed to the death of the Senate. I'm here to remind you and Vice President Harris, you're missing a critical moment for policy accomplishments. Do what you said you were going to do. Be the stroke for the president's pen. We could have substantial cannabis reform in this country. Good article. South Dakota activists turn in signatures to put cannabis legalization on the ballot. Again. Not once. This is twice. Okay? So they went out and got the petition signed again to get it on the November ballot. Again. South Dakota, if you vote this again and they screw you again, I'm coming out there. Full force, me and Mrs. Weedman. DA's voice new cannabis seeds decision. This was an article a couple of times I've read. This is an update, though. The agency revealed in a legal decision that cannabis seeds, clones, and other genetic material containing less than 0.3% THC are legally hemp and therefore not subject to federal control. That's pretty good. I mean, it's only 0.3%, but will they ever know? A seed is a seed. So, I mean, I buy seeds online, so consider them hemp. Great. Thanks, DEA. There you go, everybody. Seeds are good. Here's something crazy, and I haven't heard this word in a long, long time. Ponzi schemes.
Yeah.
We were prone to one, kind of.
We were prone to one.
Cannabis Ponzi schemes.
We were prone to one. We almost got sucked in.
Yeah. A couple times.
The
Few
rope,
people
the
reached
rope
out
was
to
like
us.
pulling.
Jesus. Good thing we talked to people. Investors in cannabis businesses face many risks. To name a few, the subject of their investment is illegal under federal law. The business in which they're investing faces heavy tax burdens because of the IRC's 280E, and the lack of access to banking services means businesses operate nearly exclusively on cash, which makes tracking sales, expenses, and profits more subject to falsifications. And of course, there are numerous unscrupulous operators in the industry who perpetuate various frauds on unsuspecting investors. One type of fraud is the cannabis Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme is named after Charles Ponzi, a con artist operating in the 1920s in the United States and Canada. A Ponzi scheme is a type of fraud in which early investors in supposed legitimate businesses are paid returns on their investments from the investments of later investors. Perhaps most recently made famous or infamous by the Bernie Madoff Ponzi schemes, can be particularly hard to stop until the flow of money into the scheme dries up. By then, the investor's money is usually long gone. Even those who received returns may see the money clawed back. The cannabis industry has seen its fair share of Ponzi schemes and Ponzi-like activity in 2020. The SEC filed charges against 2 persons who sold perpetuated ownership interests in Washington State Cannabis Company. The perpetuators represented the investors' money, which would use to operate businesses, but in reality, they spent nearly $2 million in investor funds on personal items like luxury cars and yachts. In 2021, the DOJ charged 2 persons for running a Ponzi scheme that took around $650 million from investors. Holy shit. Who thought they were investing in cattle or cannabis businesses. So how does a cannabis investor identify and avoid a Ponzi scheme? Many Ponzi schemes, whether cannabis or not, have common red flags. These often include the promise of high returns with little risk, investment pitches that demand you act now or lose out, and an ability to provide proper documentation or your investment or representations that the paperwork will get done later, and an important thing to invest immediately. Unlicensed and registered sellers of securities, financial documents with mistakes or ones that appear cobbled together, a willingness to show your documentation as opposed to providing your documentation. Flashy marketing and social media with little substance. The individual soliciting the investment discourage you from obtaining outside advice. Note net worth or income requirements. Ponzi schemes operate across a gamut of industries, though new emerging markets are particularly a target for scammers, or schemers, as I like to call them. The best advice on how not to get ensnared in the cannabis Ponzi scheme is a cliche, and for good reason. It seems too good to be true if it probably is. South Carolina medical cannabis bill dies on the House floor following procedural challenge. This is bullshit, South Carolina. You could have did it. You could have went medical. You could have done it, and you fucking ruined it. Oh, my gosh. Ugh. And I wanted to go to that state and smoke big doinks. Illinois cannabis sales on the rise again. Another good month. $132 million in cannabis sales sold. Out-of-state residents, $40,854,000. In-state residents, $90,928,000. For a total of $131,782, $657 and 26 cents. 3,102 and 233 items sold. That's up from March by 1 million and almost 2 million from March. Pretty good. And now the weather's getting warmer too. Concert season's starting. Memorial Weekend's going to be concerts. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Austin, Texas voters approve local cannabis decriminalization ballot initiative. Good for you, Austin, Texas. I like that town. So hot though, but I like it. A lot of fun. Inexperienced. And experienced, new, returning smokers, users of cannabis. And there's a guide now.
Yeah. A new
that
guide.
Mrs. Weedman is going to give you the guide,
Yeah.
the tour, how to get back, how to come back to us, how to come back to be a burner, stoner, and pothead again. Come back. It's all good.
Or give
We're
it a
here.
try.
Come and smoke with Mr. and Mrs. Weedman. We'll show you how. We'll get you right
Or
back
try it
into
for the first time.
with us. Come and experience it with us. You inexperienced burners, stoners, and potheads.
All right, don't freak out. This is the article. A cannabis guide for new, inexperienced, or returning users. With legal states finally underway in New York and New Jersey, in New Jersey and on the horizon in New York, cannabis has likely piqued the interest of some residents who have either never tried it or last smoked it when they had to pick the seeds out of the grass before rolling a joint on their Led Zeppelin album cover. It's been a minute, right? Some longtime smokers may be overwhelmed by the current array of items available in dispensaries or get lost when the budtender starts talking about the ratio of THC to CBD. Gradual legalization across the country has generated a wide range of products, now more accessible to those who don't already have a regular dealer in their contact list. Others might just be trying to figure out how to get high without becoming a catatonic or freaking out with anxiety, especially since contemporary cannabis strains really do tend to be stronger than what was available in decades past. Drew Bailey, Director of Operations for the Midwest at the New York-based cannabis company Columbia Care, previously worked as a sales associate at one of the company's medical dispensaries in Illinois, before overseeing the transition to recreational cannabis there. He said, early on, after the adult use sales started, a lot of people came into the dispensaries who were not used to getting high, but felt a little more comfortable coming out and inquiring. Some, he said, came in because they had fear of missing out. The most common question budtenders get from the newbies are around dosing and the different ways to consume cannabis, Bailey added. While everyone's body experiences cannabis differently, and some people discover it's just not their thing, being armed with some basic information can make the process of experimenting a little smoother. So what is the difference between THC and CBD? Cannabis products have more than 100 different cannabinoids. Those are compounds found in the plant that bind the receptors in the human body to produce physiological effects. But the two most well-known are THC and CBD. THC is the main psychoactive ingredient in cannabis, meaning it will get you high, while CBD, known for its calming properties, generally won't. A cannabis plant containing a practically negligible level of THC is considered hemp, whereas a plant containing higher levels of THC is referred to as cannabis. But CBD can be derived from hemp or cannabis. On its own, CBD has been advertised as a way to quell anxiety, induce sleep, and ease depression, among a wide range of other purported benefits, although research on these topics is still emerging. So is weed really stronger now? The short answer is yes. And that means, and that means
Cadillac anymore, ladies and gentlemen.
you don't have to smoke as much to get high, especially if you haven't built up your tolerance. The amount of THC in cannabis flower varies depending on the strain, but it was above 15% on average in 2018, compared to less than 4% just 30 years ago. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, meanwhile, there has not been the same increase in CBD concentrations. I didn't know that. Finding the right ratio. Legal products often have labels showing ratios of THC to CBD that can be used as one indicator of what to expect. In New Jersey, labels must offer a general indication of the balance of the two chemicals, such as moderate CBD, moderate THC, or high THC, low CBD. There's evidence that CBD can help offset some of the negative effects of high levels of THC, such as paranoia. Products with a higher ratio of CBD to THC may diminish the cognitive effects of THC, said Dr. Elizabeth Ardillo, Director of Medical Education at Green Thumb Industries, a legal cannabis company based in Illinois that also operates in New York and New Jersey. Some people say the 4-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC really negates the potential to feel high from THC. But for novice consumers or those nervous about feeling high, I would recommend an even higher ratio of CBD to THC, like 10-to-1 or 20-to-1. Dr. Stacia Woodcock, a dispensary manager at Curaleaf, suggested a more balanced 1-to-1 ratio for those who are apprehensive about getting too high.
I like a good ratio of 2 every once in a while.
1-to-1.
1-to-1's good. I've done
Yeah.
a 10-to-1. I've done 4-to-1 I like. When I wasn't really getting high during the day, I like a good 4-to-1.
Yeah.
You still feel it. And you're like,
It's more
damn.
body.
When I quit vaping the first time, that's what I did. Remember, I did a 4-to-1.
Yeah.
And it worked. It helped.
That's
That was
good.
pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So you're new. Should you eat it? Should you smoke it? Should you vape it? Even deciding how to consume cannabis is more complicated than it once was, since the options are now so vast, from drops that can be placed under your tongue to topical creams. Gone are the days of simply choosing between rolling a joint or
They've
packing a
got
bowl.
enemas now down in Alabama.
Yeah, right.
They got suppositories.
Suppositories.
Sorry, they got suppositories now
There's
too.
ointments, there's salves. You know what, Mr. Weedman? Be quiet. You're really high.
Man, I love the percolator. Love the
gosh.
percolator. So glad we're back on it.
The best way to decide how you prefer to consume cannabis or whether you like the effects at all is just to experiment. But knowing about the benefits and drawbacks of some of the options going into it can make the process easier and more enjoyable. With edibles, the high comes on more gradually and lasts longer, whereas people typically feel the effects of smoking or vaping pretty quickly. It might take over an hour to feel the effects of a gummy or brownie. It's easier to control your dosage of THC with an edible, but it can be harder to know how much to consume since the effects are so delayed. By contrast, if you take a couple drags on a joint, which can even be conveniently pre-rolled at some dispensaries, you will typically know how high you are quickly and whether you want more or not. Drugs absorbed through your digestion take longer to enter the bloodstream compared to those going through your lungs. With edibles, dosing can sometimes be counterintuitive, even in products that are regulated, said Dr. Lewis Nelson, chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine and chief of the Division of Medical Toxicology at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. Nobody seems to read the labels, he said. People just pick these things up and say, oh, it's a candy bar. Must be one serving. And before you know it, they've eaten 9 times the recommended dose. All the time, right? Legal states tend to cap the total amount of THC allowed in a package of edibles, but unregulated edibles often exceed that cap. Regardless, the recommended dose is not necessarily the right amount to consume. For instance, a bag of gummies with 100 milligrams of THC might have 10 gummies, each having 10 milligrams of THC. Our recommendation would be to start off with only a fraction of one of those pieces, Bailey said of Columbia Care's advice to cannabis newbies. In its campaign urging people to consume responsibly, the Marijuana Policy Project suggested people only taking 5 milligrams to start, while Bailey suggests even less. You can always take more, he said. You really can't take less. When it comes to smoking, dosing is a little trickier. This nifty calculator from the Los Angeles Times estimated how many milligrams of THC you're inhaling based on what strain you're smoking and how fat your joint is. But it's important to remember, we have to look that up, the nifty calculator. But
Sounds nifty.
But it's important to remember that there are lots of variables and everyone is different. A vape pen is also a convenient option that gets you high quickly and doesn't have the same smell as a joint or bowl. Although some research shows it can make the effects of THC even stronger. So what do you do if you get too high? Although cannabis is relatively safe compared to other drugs,
I know.
What?
Don't freak out.
Right. Just stay calm. You are alive and you'll get through it.
Don't go to the hospital.
No, just go get comfy on a chair or
Reach
go
out
for
to
a walk.
Mr. and Mrs. Weedman on Instagram. We'll
Fresh
help you
air,
out.
fresh air, or just quiet is what you need. Although cannabis is relatively safe compared to other drugs, the rise of edibles combined with a lack of literacy when it comes to dosing has led to an increase in cannabis-related emergency room visits in recent years, said Nelson of Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. Sometimes they're a little freaked out and anxious, and we try to talk them down, de-escalate them, Nelson said of patients who have consumed too much THC. Others, he said, come in extremely out of it. He said, while there are extreme cases, it's important for people to remember that they can usually just find a peaceful space to ride it out. Dr. Lewis Nelson, Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School said, unlike heroin or cocaine, where overdoses are truly life-threatening from the drug's effects, it's hard to really overdose on cannabis to a point of real clinical consequence. Bailey said customers sometimes relate experiences of having gotten too high. As soon as they understand this is temporary and it's just a little intense, they should just put on a movie or something like that and get through it, he said. It's important to just stay in a good mood. Find something that's lighthearted and just helps carry you through it. For people who are uncomfortably high, Bailey also recommends hydrating, eating something, and having good company around. Anything.
Sugar.
Yeah. Anything to positively distract them from focusing on the intense moment. And remember, not all cannabis shops are alike. Product offerings tend to vary from shop to shop, state to state, right? Every company has to create in each individual state. So they're going to be different wherever you go. Different brands, different companies. Product offerings tend to vary from shop to shop. So you might not want to assume that what you purchased at one legal dispensary will be available at another. Stores often have product menus on their websites that let you check out what's available for visiting, or you can enter your location and search for specific strains and products on Leafly. In New York, where there are no licensed recreational dispensaries yet, you can still buy cannabis at the store. I didn't know that. But it can be a bit harder to tell what you're getting. Since legalization, some stores have started selling THC products outright. Although
I told you this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I read it a couple weeks ago. But you got people just like, you can smoke in the streets.
It's so crazy.
Why not?
Yeah.
You ain't getting in trouble.
Right. No, I'm saying it's so crazy because it's so different.
Wait.
Right.
They should have had. They're saying not till maybe next year that it might fully be like the shops will be open for recreational. Oh. People in New York are going to fuck you, man. They ain't going to wait that long. I love New York. I love weed.
Because the law is already in place.
Yeah.
They just need dispensaries.
Yeah.
Wow. Although it's important to keep in mind, they aren't necessarily regulated or tested, even if they appear to come from other legal states. Some stores also advertise that they sell cannabis, and it may even hang in a big pot leaf out front. But they actually only sell hemp-derived products, such as CBD and Delta-8 THC. Delta-8 is extremely similar to the Delta-9 THC that most of us are used to, except it's considered to be less potent, and it's typically created in a lab. It's synthetic. Because it can be manufactured from cannabinoids extracted from hemp, Delta-8 originated as an attempt to dodge the laws around cannabis. New York regulators have since prohibited licensed CBD retailers from selling Delta-8, but some still consider it less risky than selling products containing the old-fashioned Delta-9. Crazy.
I mean, you can home grow too in New York right now, so you know fuckers out there fucking just growing and selling it and giving it away. No fucks given. They want to grow on roofs out there. How you gonna fucking control that?
Right.
International news: Canadians can now get weed delivered to them at music festivals.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You got to be in a designated area, but hell yeah. Nepal, former hashish haven, could end prohibition after 50 years. Good for you. Viva Nepal. Viva Nepal. Hashish haven in Kathmandu. What's that song called? I'm going to Kathmandu. Don't tap me on
You
that
are
one.
full of songs.
I am tonight. Full of songs. Pot and pretzels. Would you travel to Germany for cannabis? For pot and pretzels?
I don't have to.
But would you? If
Sure.
Germany goes legal?
Sure.
I would go there for
Yeah, I want
Oktoberfest.
to go. Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
So weed, pretzels, beer?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, all day long.
All day.
Yeah, because Malta's good and Luxembourg have decriminalized cannabis and ownership. So now Germany's just got to get in there with 82 million inhabitants, man. That'd be a wild, wild west Oktoberfest. It'd be great. What's wrong with this boyfriend on this article? What the hell's wrong with this dude?
This kid. So this last article is kind of a funny one. It is a Dear Prudence letter. And Dear Prudence is an advice column on a website called Slate. So, dear Prudence, I'm in love with my boyfriend. We've been dating 9 months and it's been going really well. I'm 26 and it just feels like he's the one who I want to be with for my whole life. We're still obviously in our first year, so a lot of relationship is experiencing new things and new conflicts for the first time. This one has me stumped. He has a security clearance that requires that he not do drugs. When we first started dating, I thought I would also maybe go for clearance one day, so I had also been drug-free. Years ago, though, I did smoke weed pretty regularly. He said that was important to him that I was drug-free. 9 months later, I'm completely rethinking my career and want to start partaking again casually. I was so excited because I really enjoy it, and I was just letting him know I would be happy to keep it a secret from him so he can remain ignorant for clearance reasons. I was shocked when he said that smoking was actually a deal breaker, and if I choose to, he would break up with me. He previously smoked as well before quitting to get his clearance. I guess I knew that this was important to him, and in the beginning we were on the same page, but I'm a changing person. And for him to not even be willing to compromise in any way makes me feel resentful. He's turning it into a, you're choosing marijuana over our relationship. But I feel more like my desires are being ignored because he won't even talk to me about it. I'm worried this is the beginning of a pattern where he asks something of me that I might change my mind on, and instead of becoming a conversation, it becomes an ultimatum. He says marijuana is the only thing he feels strongly about. I finally told him that I wouldn't smoke, but I'm so resentful and don't know how to move past this. Signed, can't smoke my own pot. So, dear Prudence writes back, Dear Can't Smoke, it's a little unclear whether your boyfriend's objection at this juncture is to marijuana or to adhering to security clearances. But either way, it sounds like he's expressing an anxiety about his job and making it about your relationship. You have a couple of options here. You can ask him what this marijuana thing is all about. You can try to revisit the initial conversation and say that you don't feel like you're choosing marijuana over your relationship, but that you noticed it struck a nerve with him and you'd like him to explain more of his feelings about it to you. Or you can tell him that ultimatums are usually not workable in a relationship dynamic for you and ask him to come up with another way of communicating his desires. Or hold the line. I'm concerned by the intensity of his response. He is exerting a level of control over you and your behavior that isn't appropriate. And dangling the threat of a breakup for noncompliance is unhealthy and unhelpful. This early in a relationship, we should be looking for solutions and commonalities, not conflicts and problems. If he's making such a big deal without being willing to talk it through, he may not be as invested in the relationship, or he may not be the right person for you for now. Boo-hoo, sob, sob.
Well, I mean,
That's a bummer, but yeah, she's right.
100%. You know,
And like at least talk about it.
Right.
What's so hard about a conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk it. Communication.
his loss.
Yep.
You know, that's all I got to say
Sounds
about
like
that.
it.
Yeah, 100%. Dear Prudence.
Oh, it's another song.
Another song. 3 tonight. 3. This is a great story. A Detroit man ran a cannabis cash cow vending machine outside his home for 4 years.
Huh.
You know, it's not recreational in Detroit. There's no recreational shops in Detroit. It's only medical dispensaries in Detroit, and this law's been trying to change forever. So this dude said, "I'm gonna set up a fucking motherfucking shop." I love it.
That's great.
The man told police that he made the majority of his living from the cannabis vending machine, $2K per day. A Detroit man was arrested after police found several kilos of cannabis and 18 guns in his home, where he had allegedly operated a cannabis vending machine outside of it. Okay, he should not be arrested for cannabis. Having 18 guns, that was a little excessive. Mm-hmm. I understand why he probably had the 18 guns, because he had a $2,000 a day vending machine outside of his house. I understand. But you could have just operated it, man. So his name is Marcelius Cornwell. According to a criminal complaint, allegedly operated the machine in which he was pulling in around $2K per day, selling weed and pills. Pill part, but mostly weed. And he apparently been operating his cash cow cannabis machine for the past 4 years. Police officials, according to YXYZ, conducted surveillance of Cornwell's residence and participated in 2 controlled suspected weed purchases from the cannabis vending machine during February and March of 2022. Man, they just busted him.
That just happened.
That fucking dude's a genius.
Wow.
Brilliant. Somebody must have ratted him out. That's the only thing I could think of. Then they conducted search warrants in March, and the last known address and be arrested Cornwell and another man. Cornwell told police that he made the majority of his living from the vending machine, and at $2,000 per day, clearly made quite a good living. Fuck yeah, he did.
Yeah, he
good
did.
for him. Detroit, it says here, Detroit to finally allow sales in shops, that is. After months of delay in early April, Detroit City Council finally passed an ordinance allowing sales of adult-use cannabis to begin. Well, I think that dude is genius. I mean, $2,000 a day, a vending machine. Oh my goodness, brilliance! I'm sure there's another one out there somewhere in someone's home or out front of their house where people go and get weed. There's got to be another one somewhere. I just want to go try to do it, just to say I did. Mrs. Weedman, man, what a good show! Episode 98.
Yeah.
2 more to 100. I was just thinking about this when you were talking on the last article you were doing. When we get to 100 episodes, it's going to be 2 more. We'll have it by May, before Memorial Weekend, which would be great. And we do an hour show. Average an hour. Sometimes more, but very few that were less than an hour. That's over 6,000 minutes or 60,000 minutes.
Yeah, I can't do math right
60 times 100, 6,000 minutes. That's a lot of minutes
now. That is.
to talk about
It's
one
a lot of
subject.
talking.
I think it's great. I can't wait. That 100 episode is going to be great. We're going to pop a bottle of rosé champagne.
Yay.
Have a nice little toast to everybody around the world for sticking with us and listening to us. I'm excited that 100 episodes coming. It's been a long time to get there. Hopefully we can start doing 2 and 3 a week one day. I love that. Get to 300 a little bit quicker. And then the 420th episode, that's going to be live at some. We're going to rent out a space again and throw the biggest party ever if we do when we get our 420th episode.
Yeah.
That would be big party. Well, everybody, thanks out there for listening to us out there in the world. Miss Weedman, you got anything else to say?
No, I got nothing.
Nothing?
I'm pretty quiet. That weed's making me quiet.
I love it. It's time for the percolator. It's time
See,
for
it
the
made you
percolator.
uppity. It made me like
Time for the
super mellow.
Because I'm so excited you smoked the percolator with me. I've been wanting you to for a while. I want to get I got to find this company because I wanted them to put a WM420 logo on there or an 8 Decades logo on there or my mask on there. That'd be kind of fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Or the mushroom, because this is a Rick and Morty one. They have just their faces on there. I would like them to put the mushroom and the Mr. Weedman claymation characters that we made. That'd be kind of
That'd
funny
be
on
cute.
there too. So, maybe if I can find this company and they will do a collab with us, I think it'd be awesome. So, hey, everybody out in the world, thank you for listening, man. We really appreciate y'all out there. Don't forget, reach out to us, send us DMs. Mrs. Weedman's got her own handles now, social media stuff. We both have, send us emails, and you can find everything on 8decades.com, spelled out 8decades.com or www.8decades.com. You can find all of our information on there now.
Yep.
Mrs. Weedman's been throwing out some great pics, too, on our social media. Of the clothing line and some of the cool ass stuff we have on the website. So check us out. Reach out to us. Say hello. I appreciate everybody that's doing it. I appreciate everybody that reaches out to us on Instagram. Tez, my boy, those pictures you've been sending us, man, and that little group thing you have too is pretty fucking great, man. I appreciate you out there, brother. And everybody out there that's been shooting us shit. I appreciate y'all. You guys are all awesome. Got some people sending us some rum to try on the show. I'm excited about that. When we get it, I'll tell you all about it. We got some people sending us some seeds to grow. I'm excited about that. That's some good shit. We met some fucking friends in Virginia sending them stuff. Somebody over from Scotland is talking to us now too. We appreciate you all, man. You don't even know. And I'm baked and rambling on, but I don't give a fuck. I love you all out there. As Paulie always says, smoke fucking smart. Puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.